Welcome to the Resilient Schools podcast. We're here at the Bridging to Resilience conference that's put on by ESSDACK, and we have Dr. Chad Higgins, who's the Executive Director of ESSDACK here. Chad, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about ESSDACK and what you guys do.
Our Educational Service Center is one of 5 in Kansas. We are celebrating 40 years this year from origination. And this is just my second year, but as a former school superintendent, not my last job, but the one before that, we were members of ESSDACK and participated in several different things we use. The resources we provide are pretty broad.
Yeah.
We run a health insurance consortium for member districts.
I didn't know that either.
We run a 403B, a TSA consortium. We partner with a financial planning company, and we do title fund consortium work. We have a inspired leadership team that does coaching and culture audits. And then we have a professional learning team. So we have instructional coaches and curriculum alignment specialists and assessment and data and all of those kinds of things. But then, of course, specific to this conference is the resilience team that we have, and they do brain science and trauma-informed work all over the country.
So this is really just one part of all that you guys provide.
Yes.
But it's a pretty significant part, 3 days for a conference. That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
Why is this such important work?
I think there's probably no other more important work. I think we've got to get to the root of the challenges, the crisis going on in schools and communities and home. And we've got to start impacting change at all of those levels, helping people understand sources, long-term effects on individuals and on communities, schools. And it doesn't have to be this way. That's I think the part that we pull our hair out about is it's not that we're trying to, this business in resilience and trauma-informed is not there's no money in it. We're not trying to generate business, and we're not the only ones doing it, obviously, but we just have tremendously committed, passionate people that just trying to get the snowball rolling down the hill and then really picking up speed and momentum.
So what do you see as the potential growth areas for you here? What do you feel like you need to do better or next in regards to resilience and trauma-informed practices?
We added another team member this last year, somebody I'd worked with before who we had built in that district. This person was the resident expert on trauma and resilience care and strategies. And he worked with teachers and counselors and administrators, and he could bounce around and he'd work with kids and he would model. And we're growing that and, while we have his expertise and continue to expand the training of our current staff and hopefully potentially add some more. But what Eric has been able to do with that experience is then get out into districts. Our member districts have a lot of smaller schools that can't have full-time resilience folks. And so we're working specifically with that team, but then other teams as well to get more ingrained in those schools where they need the help the most. And student behavior and crisis and attendance is at the top of the list for most schools. And so we can get in and spend some time and train those teachers. And then again, the same analogy with the snowball is they get used to that and they recognize how a small investment of time and resources can make such a huge difference. They'll continue to do that work, and then they can put all of their other energy and resources into the things that will just continue to help them support students in their communities.
Yeah, I think that's well said. When you think about the efforts that go into doing this kind of training and really this kind of work, if key people leave, Eric left his district and now works for you, how do you make sure that the vacuum is filled when key people leave in districts or in ESSDACK?
Yeah, I think you continue to, you make that assumption, first of all, that nothing's permanent. And that's the model. We can't be everywhere either. Those schools can't hire full-time people to do the work. So if we can help train, help transfer that knowledge and that experience and that understanding of the science and the responsivity, then I hate to keep using the same analogy, but that's the snowball. And as far as whenever, and again, Eric's not with Rebecca and Carmen and Katie and so forth. It's such a strong team. And Ginger, that ideally we just keep growing. And
Mhm.
Eric's experience is different than the others' experience, but they're also very used to being in schools and working with kids and teachers. He just has, again, I think this diversity of experience and
Yeah.
styles and strategies. And we just keep growing on that until you have a complete team. And then you just recognize when there's some turnover, you figure out how to fill it out.
Yeah. So what's good about a conference like this is that you have an opportunity to see people coming up through the system and their experiences, what they're learning, what they take away, how they implement it, all that kind of stuff. In fact, one of the people that I interviewed a few minutes ago is named Sarah Reed, and she's only in her second year teaching, but was home with her own kids for a long time and then came into teaching a little bit later in life. And you could see that this is impacting her in a way this is going to be with her for a long time.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you learn things, you're like, oh, that was good. All right, I'll go back to what I was doing. For her, this is going to make some changes. And so this gives you an opportunity to see who's out there and what they're doing and to see how they grow and develop.
Yeah. I'll switch analogies and talk about a spark in a grass fire. And I think that's what we hope happens from these kinds of experiences. After I spoke earlier this morning, I had a couple of young teachers come and visit with me, and they're passionate about this work and trying to figure out how to create this change. And there's either resistance in some cases or just yeah, we agree with you and we support this, but then there's not a whole lot of movement.
Yeah.
And so I think it's empowering folks, and they recognize that it might be more comfortable for them to find a place that's more in line with their beliefs, but they can't do that. Like they want to be where they're at and they want to create the change there.
Yeah.
And so that's what gets exciting, is when you can generate some initiative for change and build a little courage with some knowledge and with a community like this.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of hope, I think.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely something that I'm seeing a lot of from a lot of different people, that there's hope. And that's one of the questions that I've been asking is, what's your hope for the future in these interviews? So what's your hope for the future, Chad?
I'm very optimistic. I think there's, I messaged this morning, our young people are amazing. I think they're so much more global than we were, and recognize that their thoughts, opinions, experiences aren't everybody else's.
Yeah.
I grew up that way. Didn't understand why not everybody agreed with me.
Yeah.
And so they're going to figure it out sooner than we did, sooner than I did, if they haven't already figured it out. And I think they care for each other more. I know we talk a lot, or we hear a lot about bullying, and I would contend that it's not nearly as significant as it used to be. Now, social media creates a challenge, but I think you also see kids come out to support each other and encourage each other, and it creates community as well. I'm not anti-social media or globalism, but try to harness that energy. So I'm incredibly excited that we just have to keep fighting.
Yeah.
And fighting's not the right word. We just keep grinding away and changing hearts and minds. And I shared this morning that I'm a perfect example of that. I've come a long ways from where I used to be to where I want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly have too. And that's something that being able to do these kind of interviews and talk to people and hear their stories up close makes it really powerful for me to be able to see changes in myself and how I'm growing and developing as well. Chad, any final words before we wrap up? Anything you feel needs to be said?
I don't think so. This is only my second year, and to be a part of it a little more actively was very rewarding. I think it's going to help me grow into a different community than I've been. I'm in school leadership for so long, and a little reluctant, honestly, to jump into this stuff just because it's so out of my skill set and knowledge set. And it's such a cool crowd. They're just the salt of the earth, incredible human beings who are selfless and service oriented. So already looking forward to next year.
Yeah, me too. This has been awesome. This is my first time coming here. I've known Ginger for at least a decade at this point, and been connected in different ways. So this is really awesome, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to interview people here, and this has been really cool. So thank you for that. And thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
This episode was edited by Max Cooper as part of the Davis Catalyst Center.